Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Finding Freedom. In this episode, we're going to talk about how we're connected and how you can open your eyes to the things around you. So let's get into it. So the other day, I had an interesting conversation with a fellow Marine. She was working at a gas station, and we were talking about stuff like CLS and things like that. Now, if you don't know what CLS is, it's a combat lifesaver course, right? And pretty much what you learn in there can literally save someone's life. Now, here's the funny thing. When you are a corpsman in the military, so on and so forth, or whatever the case, when you go to, try to get a job outside, it becomes very difficult, right? If you ever seen the movie Rambo, where he freaks out, so on and so forth, they claim it's PTSD, but nobody wanted to give him a job. Why was that? It's the same thing. You come out as a corpsman, you have all these credentials, and you could save someone's life, but you can't become a paramedic or a nurse. You have to go to school, so on and so forth, etc. Now, I find that very interesting because, if you look at money, yeah, dollars are green, right? They call them greenbacks sometimes, right? But if you look at the coins that we use, why is Lincoln on a copper coin that isn't made with copper anymore? Right? I don't even think there's brass in there or whatever. It's like the color of brass, right? And then, of course, every other coin that's silver has, different presidents on it. Kennedy's one, Washington's one, Jefferson's one, so on and so forth. But then Sacagawea, a Native American, made it onto the gold coin. Now, I thought this was very interesting because, I just saw another news article of how people were in certain places handing out clean needles and pipes and stuff for people to do their drugs. And, granted, fentanyl sold on both sides of the fence. Jay-Z said that, right? But, there's a thing like in California, they have the medical grade marijuana. You get a medical card, etc. In North Carolina, they have something called THCA. When they added the A, it bypassed certain laws when they were able to sell marijuana in North Carolina, so on and so forth. So, that's one way of getting it past the law. But then you have to ask, what does the A stand for? Does it mean like they acid washed it or something like that? Does it have different effects, etc.? Because, think about it. If we're into trade, right, and there's a whole thing about China and trade and tariffs and all that, if the law dictates that the Gulf of Mexico has certain protections, then all you have to do is change the name to the Gulf of America. And now those laws aren't applied to the Gulf of America. They're applied to the Gulf of Mexico. So now everybody has to do work to rewrite everything, right? Or make what's known as a amendment, right? So it was interesting. So the reason why I brought the marijuana thing up was because there was this nurse that I actually used to speak to. Her name was Leslie, if I remember correctly. And, granted, a lot of people told me stuff about her and things like that. She would tell me about how her brother smoked weed and everything like that. And when he worked out, it came out of his system, so he didn't have to smoke that much, this, that, and the third. Then she told me about these places in Brazil where they have like these brothels where every level is like a different level and you can have like endless sex. You go to each floor, you can have sex with different people could touch you, so on and so forth, and that's perfectly fine. Now, here's the thing. If you want to spread a disease really quick, just have sex. It's the quickest way to do it, right? Or cough, right? That's another way to spread the COVID virus and everything else. And so, I look at people like Magic Johnson and all these people, and I'm like, man, how did they survive these things? Was it because they had so much money? Did they have a lot of power? Did they have control over something? What makes us all connected? Like we're, like a hive, like a beehive or bumblebee, right? Think Transformers, right? If the nerds out there that are partying and doing all these things, or let's say the P. Diddy case, for instance, right? You have to like really look at what's going on. And if you don't understand what's going on and you say you know what you're doing or I know what you're up to and you're playing psychological games, well, what games are you actually playing? Because the medical community doesn't even understand their logo sometimes, right? That's a branding term. I tell people you hire marketers like me so that you don't need a lawyer or an attorney, or you don't need law enforcement because you're going to get into trouble, and I'm trying to keep you out of trouble. However, when that is not able to happen, for instance, I may have been blacklisted, let's just say that. And there was this girl named April Rain Littaker, if I remember her name correctly. She made boatloads of cash. She used to be in the Air Force, and she sold her little black book to Germany. Now, she made millions of dollars, so on and so forth. And I just thought it was funny when she came back, she was pretending to act nice to me and everything like that. But the funny thing is that on my birthday, she got upset and was like, "Oh, what do you want, sex or something?" And I don't know where she got hurt, but it reminded me of Leslie, right? And it was one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm a man of my word and I keep my promises, but I'll walk away quick, fast, in a hurry, right? If you know something, right? Let's say someone knows a secret, so on and so forth, and they whisper, "Yeah, don't worry, it's going to be all right. I know something," etc., right? Well, what happens if they don't make it? You didn't keep up to your end of the bargain, which meant you lied, right? And if you lie, it's normally a habitual thing or a pattern, right? And if you don't break the pattern and you keep lying, right, then there's going to be issues, right? And so, I think about stuff like, they talk about spiritual teachings, the Bible, and everything like that. And it's like, well, what do you have to actually do? Because there's laws to the universe, right? But then, of course, you have different movies and stuff like that. You have singers that say stuff. And, Biggie Smalls made a song. I forgot which one it was, but there's a line in there that says, "Blow up like the World Trade." Well, 9/11, the Twin Towers came down. So did he predict the future? I mean, look at The Simpsons, for crying out loud. How many things did they predict, right? And then you got Family Guy, right? Where I think the wife, whatever, she's like, "Now the Marines, you want to join the Army? No, no, no. Now the Marines, those are the ones you want to," etc. And you could look that up on YouTube. But, if you don't understand the signs and the things that are going on around you, then who's really oppressed, right? Because let's face it, the World Health Organization has the Asclepius on it. That's on the ambulance, right? And that is the one with the one snake and the staff, so on and so forth. They have one job to do: keep the person alive. If the military is so highly trained at it because, well, we get used all the time. I mean, they have students work on us all the time. I'm a prime example of that, And when the students are learning to become doctors, they get to practice on military personnel, so on and so forth. And so I just think it's very interesting that there's certain things that they have to go through in order to work in the medical field that has the scepter of Hermes. Well, why are there two snakes on that one? And the World Health Organization now has one. Other places have free health care. Ours cost an arm and a leg. Other places have healthier food. Ours is expensive, and the cheapest thing to eat is actually processed food, which causes things like cancer and everything else, and disrupts the body when it comes to processing everything, right? It's not healthy for you, so on and so forth. And, as I connect the pieces and I watch videos and movies and stuff like that, there was a movie called Spy Game with Brad Pitt and Robert Redford. Now, both great actors. And in there, he said something to the guy. He goes, all you need is a stick of gum and a lighter, so on and so forth. He goes, let me educate you on something. Do you know that there hasn't been a country with a McDonald's in it that has attacked the United States? And I was like, interesting. And later on, I put these pieces together and, so on and so forth. And then I see on the news that somebody got a freaking McDonald's thing, which was crazy. And so, it's just one of those things where if you don't open your eyes, like, for instance, if you've seen Class, how to hear with your eyes and see with your ears, I went into depth with a couple things in there. And if you didn't understand that, then you're missing the point and you're missing the picture. And when you're on your journey of pursuing freedom, well, if you think you're free, ask yourself how hard you're working to become free. Think about it. Right? I know people in jail that have more downtime than those in the working world. True story. I know people that went overseas that say other countries are this, that, and the third, and America's the bad person. But are we? Or are we just bullies? Have we grown into societies? 50 Cent said America's got a thing for this gangster, so on and so forth thing, right? They love gangsters, they love mobsters, they love cartels, they love these movies, so on and so forth, etc. But then when they get to experience that, right? Hardship, taxes, inflation, because the government acts like one, right? It's one of those things where, oh, well, the people are making too much money, so let's pay them less so we could keep them in line, chasing the carrot that's attached to the stick. That's how you get a horse to run faster, or an animal, etc. You put the reward, in front of them, and then you let them keep chasing after the reward. If you watch Andrew Bustamante, right, or ever seen the TV show Quantico, right, they talk about mice or rice or whatever. And so you have reward, ideology, coercion, and some other thing, either emotions or energy or whatever the case may be. Now, if you want to destroy somebody, you can have them chase after a reward. Once you understand their ideology, take that away from them. Then, of course, their comfort, the C, right? The comfort, the compassion, the community, strip that away from them. And then, of course, their emotions, their energy, their excess time, right? Take that away from them. Now, what do you have? Someone that has become bitter, hardened, emotionless, doesn't see the worth in certain things. And this psychological game is, well, psychological warfare. I mean, if you think about it, if the rules are thou shalt not kill, well, you have sick people out there that want to carry out a science experiment, and they say, okay, well, we can't kill them, but we could psychologically make them want to do it. So, you have to ask yourself, if you look at things like Mission 22 that prevents veteran suicide, right? Are they psychologically messing with the veterans so that they end up a certain way? Are they psychologically messing with people and giving them drugs and providing them free needles and pipes and everything so that if, God forbid, they say something, they could just say that they're a druggie or crazy or whatever to get them to shut up so that they could keep their secret and keep their money flowing? I mean, think about it. The money that you're using isn't worth the paper it's printed on. So why are you working so hard for it? We used to have a barter system, right? I need my house to be built. I don't know how to build a house, but I do know how to work on cars. I'll fix your car if you help me build a house, right? Or there's this guy, I'm not really big, I'm a geek, I'm not strong, etc. I'll make sure all your technology looks super cool, etc. I'll make sure no hackers come to you, etc. But you got to take care of my bullies. No problem, I'll take care of your bullies. Now, there's this guy that has a lot of power and everything like that, and he likes to play both sides of the fence. Okay, does he know how to hold the line? Well, if he doesn't understand that terminology, then he's fucked, right? Because if you look at it, it's the July 4th was Independence Day, right? I don't think we have any independents that have ever ran for president after the year 2000. You have Republicans, you have Democrats. Where are the independents? We are the United States of independence, right? Freedom, so on and so forth. Now, when it comes to power and control, well, yeah, you're independent. You are allowed to come here. You are allowed to build a business, etc. And when I say allowed, I mean whether you came on a boat, a raft, smuggled in, etc. You got here somehow. And then you decided to, well, what? Flex power and control? Show people, etc. Or hide in the shadows? Messing with technology? So on and so forth. I mean, if you look on social media, some of the trends that they talk about, the Mandela effect, is so interesting, right? Because if you want somebody to forget something, take small bits or change certain things little by little, and they'll quickly forget. And then a doctor could say, oh, they have amnesia or Alzheimer's or dementia, so on and so forth. And if you combine that with some of the drugs out there, well, it just compounds that, right? But because of social engineering and social proof, you guys listen. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it must be one. So if the person says they're a doctor, they're a doctor. If they're a nurse, they're a nurse. If they're law enforcement, they're law enforcement. If they're a gangster, they're a gangster. Right? And what's funny is that on the money itself, it says, in God we trust, right? But which God? Because you have the all-seeing eye on there, which are pyramids. And, well, in Egypt, there was different gods, right? You had Ra, Horus, who else? Osiris, Iris, so on and so forth, etc. Funny, Siri can kind of spell that, if you jumble the letters up. And so, which one? Is it Zeus? Is it Athena? Is it Thor? Is it Odin? Who is it? Is it Shiva? Is it Brahma? What god? Which one? It's like they're trying to either create individualism, and if you can't get with the team or pick one or decide on one, then go away. We don't want you. We'll make your life a living hell. And what's funny is that when you study different spiritual teachings and all the stuff that happened with the quote unquote gods and everything like that, I always said that the gods were kind of like gangsters, right? God got pissed off, sent the flood. God got pissed off, fire, so on and so forth. God got pissed off, sent the plague. And I just see this happening over and over again. Someone messes up. Oh, China did this. We have COVID virus. We have something else. We have 9/11. People got too greedy. We have another thing. We're going to investigate the government and the Pentagon. Magically, the area that had all the files ended up getting destroyed. I mean, when are people going to actually stand up for once? When are they going to actually say the right and do the right thing? I mean, if you think about it, everybody in this country came from an immigrant background besides the people that were already here. So that means you're an immigrant by descent. So should we deport you as well? I asked this person the other day, I asked multiple people, and some people don't even know what they are, where they come from. I asked somebody, what's it called? I was like, hey, where are you from? He goes, oh, I'm white. Okay. I didn't ask the color of your skin. I asked, where are you from? Oh, I'm from here. Okay. So you don't know like your nationality, your descent, so on and so forth. You don't know if you're European, etc. Excuse me, let me fix the mic. And so I asked somebody else. I said, where are you from? Oh, I'm black. Okay. But where are you from? Oh, I'm African American. Oh, so you're from Africa. What part? Oh, well, I'm from here, but I'm black and they call us African Americans. So you don't know what you are? No. How'd you get here? I don't know. And then somebody got smart. They're like, oh, well, I came from my mom. No shit, Sherlock. So on and so forth. I'm pretty sure your father had something to do with it. Someone needed to fertilize the egg. And so it's one of those things where, why don't people know where they're from? Why don't they do their due diligence, as they say in certain professions, or their market research, etc., right? Why don't they ask questions like, we keep giving money away, but we're in debt. We claim we're the baddest country, but we're actually not. Because last time I checked, when you study mob history, cartels, gangs, etc., there's a certain thing that they do for, it's called extortion, right? And extortion says, I'll protect you and I'll keep your little secret, but you have to pay me. So, why did Ukraine get $6 billion? Anybody? Why did all these countries get money? Did anybody ask those questions? How are we able to fly undetected overseas to create war, so on and so forth, etc., unless it was allowed to happen? And if that's the case, well, then that explains the debt. But if you're hiding in the shadows and you don't know how to hold a line, meaning become independent, not choosing Democratic or Republic, right? But become an independent for the United States of Independence, so on and so forth, well, then maybe you'll just start learning something, right? Maybe your eyes will get opened, right? Maybe you start asking the right questions. Maybe you start reading the labels, etc. Hell, you can ask questions with ChatGPT. I want you to tell me everything about this drug. I was watching an interview with Tom Cruise, and they were talking about mental health. And, he talks about the dangers of the drugs that they use in mental health industry. He goes, do you really think there's something called a chemical imbalance? If I told you, I got a bridge to sell you, how about that? Right? Do you really think there's something called a chemical imbalance? Or they taken an oath known as the Hippocratic Oath, which means don't be a hypocrite, right? Do unto others as you shall have them do unto you. If you fuck me over, I'll fuck you over, etc. So on and so forth. And then they have these sayings, kill them with kindness, etc. But what goes around comes around. So if you slay one brother, do you slay the other? If you kill the sister, do you kill the mother? Do unto others as you shall have them do unto you. You know? And then what happens? They say, oh, well, we only need one man to repopulate with a bunch of women. Interesting. If you study animals, right? You have a lion with a bunch of lionesses, right? And so one lion can create a bunch of other lions and lionesses. But what happens to the other male lions, according to what we know? If you're a gorilla, you look at Tarzan. Granted, he was human. The gorilla wasn't, right? You had all these female gorillas, so on and so forth. But why is there only one male that repopulates? What happens to the other males, you know? And I asked this question because I could see stuff happening right now where most women don't pay attention to most men. Why is that? Because they got put in a position? Because they don't make enough? Because we're after the almighty dollar and we don't see what matters until it's gone? Or know what matters until it's gone? Maybe you need a hard lesson and have kids for yourself, and then you get to see everything done to them that you did to others. Maybe at first you have a boy. Maybe at first you have a girl. And then everything you carried out and you did gets done to them. And the cycle keeps happening. Right? When does it stop is the question. Why do they spray certain things in the air and certain locations to say they're creating a chemical balance? But in Florida, they don't do that apparently. In other areas, they don't do that. So what are they doing? Are they spraying crops? What is it? I mean, they do that when you're on a farm, yes? You know, the plane comes over and it drops, you know, the pesticides and everything on the crops, etc., right? This is why people should study botany and not just agriculture, right? Because it's actually in the Amazon, they found cures and medicines and things like that, according to science and history books, that is. But that's located, I think, down in Brazil. So how are they getting the medicine here safely? Well, they have to pay a fee, maybe a tariff or whatever the case, right? But tariffs just got reintroduced. So who is paying who? Think about it. Why is the symbol looking one way on the World Health Organization that matches the ambulance who's a first responder, not those that work at a hospital like a doctor, right? What kind of oaths are they actually taking? What are they doctoring on the contracts if you're in business? If you're an attorney or lawyer, you know what it means to doctor something. Or to cook the books if you're in finance, right? Finagle is another one, right? What matters to you, to the person across the street from you, etc. Yeah, we have a lot of people that live in certain areas, like coastal areas. Florida is one of them. California is another. But if you move inland, there's less and less people, right? I'm sure Kansas doesn't have that many people in comparison to New York City or Ohio, right? Ohio has thousands of acres of farmland, right? Corn, soybeans, etc. And so, I mean, think about it. What about Texas? Texas has a lot of land. Couldn't they populate and take care of each other? I mean, if we're supposed to be states that are united, why are we keeping certain people in certain positions? And then, of course, you have the racism that still exists, right? And I'm not just talking about racism by skin of color, but, oh, well, you didn't go to college? I don't like you. I can't hang out with you because you're not smart enough. Oh, you dropped out of school or whatever? You're too stupid. You can't work here. It's a catch-22. Mission 22, look at that. They say 22 a day normally do something. However, there's more than that, which means it's a lie. That's false advertising. I know, I was in the marketing field. It's false advertising. Check my credentials. So when you're trying to pursue freedom, what is free? Remember, if you want somebody to work harder or go somewhere, tell them there's something of value somewhere, and they'll search for it. The California gold rush. How many people made it to California because they heard gold was over there? And gold was known to be valuable, right? So you let the crazies that are greedy do it first. And then you make sure that they plot everything out and make sure one of them comes back. How do you do that? Well, there's gold over there, but you got to dig it up. Once you dig it up, bring it back over here and we'll give you money for it. Sounds fair enough, right? So I'm going to chill here. You go sail over there. And then when you find something, bring it back and tell me how you got there. But then what happens to that person? Do they become wealthy? Do they get told to be quiet? Do they get told to shut up? Do people go and conquer different locations in order to acquire such resources and minerals? Think about it. If I told you that, places like China are actually beautiful countries that treat people fairly, that normally say Americans are like crazy for doing half the stuff that they do. Or let's say Italians, Italy, right? Tony Robbins says, if I put you in Italy, you'll learn Italian, so on and so forth, if you had to, right? And, I look at the new Pope and how he's, from Chicago, he's American, so on and so forth. And the Pope is supposed to take care of the people that believe in El or God, right? At least in the Catholic religion, which is Christianity, of course. But then again, you have all these other religions. So what happens to everyone else? Genghis Khan accepted everybody. I wonder why he was so successful in conquering places. Alexander the Great conquered places, but ruled with an iron fist, if I remember correctly, right? Normally outsmarting some of his opponents, because when he became, a leader, and he had to fight the Greeks such as the Spartans, the hoplites, if I remember correctly, had 6 to 7 foot staffs, right, with a spear at the end, right? And so they would do that. So Alexander the Great made his men carry a spear that was longer, which meant it could reach them further, right? I think it was like 8-9 feet, so on and so forth, etc. So what's the point, right? What is the point in conquering? What's the point in doing something if they're just going to keep moving the carrot further and away? They say get out of your comfort zone, but the people that are preaching about personal growth that have billions of dollars, if you were to take all their money away, or the people that say, yeah, capitalism's great, so on and so forth, if you were to take all their money away, all the stuff that they worked hard for, would they still try to build everything again, brick by brick? Think about it. If you were in the military before, such as myself, would you go back? Because there's just doesn't seem like the civilians like you. It doesn't seem like the civilians even know how to function sometimes. So why not go back to at least where you think you belong, right? If you're not from the South, right, and you move down here from the North, would you go back to the North? Or would you just leave the country in its entirety and do everything you can to leave the country? Right? If you want to get information out of people, let me fix my microphone. Would you be curious and ask questions? Or would you play stupid and pretend like you don't know something? Huh? What'd you say? Huh? What? People normally hear the first time. And if we're all connected, sometimes you don't have to speak at all. In the movie Now You See Me, there's a line that says, get close, get real close. And I feel as though if you were to tell that to a fly and shine a light, the fly would get closer and closer and closer until the fly burnt and died, right? Because it got too close. Like the fable of, what is it? Icarus, right? But Jordan Peterson says that there's another part to it. But the only part you hear is don't fly too high because your wings will melt, so on and so forth. But then again, there's something in physics called string theory. It's always interesting how music can influence a society. All right, you have all these things said in songs, etc., Cardi B, etc., and then everybody acts like her and does the things that they do, and it happens over and over again. Do people not open their eyes? Do you not understand, or are you just playing dumb because you want to survive? You want to see tomorrow? Do you not want to work together because you want to maintain a certain position with your crew or your team? So you use words like you're playing catch in baseball, or like you're throwing a football around? I mean, think about it. I remember watching this show, and the guy on there would say that he's a Marine or whatever, and then all of a sudden he's in the Air Force. Seriously? And one person say he's Puerto Rican, and now he's saying he's Mexican. Really? Seriously? Are you trying to see how psychology and digital technology play a factor into what people are able to retain to test something and to constantly test like a scientist, like a mad scientist? And people wonder why I stopped at science when it came to class. Because no matter what, takers will keep taking and they'll give you nothing. Because remember, the person with the money will normally end up with the money, and the person with the knowledge will end up with nothing. What life is that? Oh, well, we're letting you live and get by, just to get by, as Talib Kweli would say, right? Or what Kamala Harris said in her political campaign, just to get by. It sounded good, but she didn't mean it, right? If you saw my other video where I talked about reconnecting with people or connecting with people that you love, so on and so forth, I said it in there. You have to actually mean it and then follow up, right? You know, they released a thing about aliens, so on and so forth. The thing is, people are so stressed out, they don't care about that, which should say a lot. You know, they want to fly to all these places. Elon wants to leave, so on and so forth. It's funny, Elon's the only person from South America that I heard of on the news. Are there more people like him? Because when I checked, he comes from a wealthy family. Makes you wonder how he actually built his wealth. Do your research. How did some of these people afford to get into the positions that they're in? You know, I heard one person say, oh, people that call each other family are a lot broker than those that don't. That's interesting, because in the military, we call each other brothers and sisters. That's funny, because in a family, you have brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers. That's a fucking family. Genius. So, what's going on? Do you not understand what you're saying, or are you just playing a role because you like certain things and you rather lie and you rather tell stories than to say the truth? If you're out there trying to pursue freedom and you're watching this right now, by all means, leave a comment. Tell me what you're trying to pursue. Fuck, I'll go do my best to try to help you. I'm not getting paid for this. I don't even have enough subscribers to monetize on YouTube. Think about that for a second. I don't even have enough subscribers to monetize from advertisements on YouTube if you're watching this. So why am I doing it? Because maybe, just maybe, I thought it would be a good idea for those that I care about, my nephew, certain individuals that I call family, because blood doesn't always make you family. You get to choose your family. But if one day I disappear, they can go to my YouTube channel and say, this was a real person. Look, he still doesn't have enough subscribers. And it's been years down the line. And what he's still saying still holds true. No one's still not free, or maybe we will be one day. Taxes may go down. Who knows? World War III may or may not happen. Remember, it only takes one domino to fall for all the others to fall as well. So, if you are listening to this and you're a good person, and LL Cool J talks about being a good person. He created that song with Eminem, Murder Gang. It's interesting. Interesting, right? It only takes one domino to trigger a chain of events. Right? Think Aretha Franklin. And so if you're, as they say, time traveling, right? Or trying to predict every outcome, so on and so forth, it only takes one event to trigger a war. And now there's so many alliances, a world war could happen. One plane, one thing, etc. Trump just accepted a plane, etc. One false move, and it could trigger something. Something that you probably don't want to happen. And what's interesting, I forgot which genius said this, but they said, what would you think would happen in the future wars? Because we had World War I and World War II. And he said, I don't know, but after World War III, I'm pretty sure we'll be fighting World War IV with sticks and stones. I'll leave you with that. Before you go out there into the world, try to educate yourself. Read books. They could change what's happening digitally. Books is very difficult to change. Now, if they do change the books, they might change the title. And if they don't change the title and they tamper with everything else, that's a problem. Because if it held true in one period, it's like changing Shakespeare work. Shakespeare's story of Romeo and Juliet has echoed in eternity. Romeo and Juliet, those names haven't changed. The outcome didn't change. You should probably read more instead of doing other things. Partying. Yeah, it's fun to party, but why party when you can ponder? And if you're going to a party, why not party with friends whom you can ponder with? Knowledge, as Tai Lopez likes to say, is power, right? Knowledge is what matters. So why not go to a party and have a bomb-ass conversation with Tai Lopez and just chill and talk the whole time? Enjoy the scenery. Yeah, have a dance once or twice. I used to go out with my friends Derek and Jay. I normally talk to Derek majority of the time, and I'll dance every once in a while. But I enjoyed the conversation. I suggest you get out there into the world, find your circle, and start enjoying more conversations. Till next time, my friends, take care. God bless. Mwah. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. And by the way, I got that from Patrick Bet David because I look up to you. You're fucking awesome. Stay true.